Welcome back, everyone. It's time for another Star Trek Picard Season 2 episode review. This time we're all the way up to episode 9. This one's called Hide and Seek. I believe it's the penultimate episode, which means we should be wrapping up all the storylines, getting answers, not introducing new canon-breaking stuff. Are we? Well, probably not. But first and foremost, I want to say this episode was dark. Not so far as context. It wasn't as dark as, murdering Icheb in front of our eyes, although there were a lot of dark subject matters in this episode. I mean dark as in literally you can't see a damn thing. Here's a live picture of my TV while I was watching the episode, and what am I supposed to be seeing in this scene? Almost the entire thing, minus some flashback scenes in the very end, were filmed outside or inside in darkness, and it was very hard to see. So I just want to put that right out there first and foremost. I was able to watch the episode. It wasn't a great time. Anyways, we start off after a 2.5 minute recap because so much has happened in this season that hasn't led to much yet that we needed to be reminded of it. So we start off looking at the Lost Arena first and foremost. This is an overhead shot of the Lost Arena in Chateau Picard. We've seen it several times this season. I haven't really liked it. It looks very muddy. This zoomed in shot's pretty good, but the actual whole overhead CGI I think has looked pretty bad. Just putting that out there right now. Anyways, Rios, Teresa, and her child, I believe it's Ricardo. They always refer to him as your child, the child, a child, something like that. So whether or not I got his name right, I don't know. Then we see the Borg Queen is transporting her new team of mercenary Borg to the Lost Arena. First and foremost, my question is, how does she have transporter technology? Is that built into the Borg Queen? Do the Borg have internal transporters? A, maybe. B, as we see later in the episode, she's in Girardi's body and does not have any of that technology. She actually needs to come back to the ship to reclaim that technology. So how are they doing this transportation technology? I don't know. Maybe she was able to cobble something together with Soon's lab, but it just seems a little out of the blue and out of nowhere for me. Second question. Are these Borg drones in the typical sense, or are they augmented mercenaries used with, some souped up Borg nanoprobe technology? I don't know. They kind of go back and forth on that throughout the episode. So we see that they also are beaming into the ship. They're doing normal military type stuff with their weapons, their guns. They're still using projectile weapons, but they're also supposed to be Borg drones. Still iffy for me. So then Girardi beams back to the ship. Rios, Teresa, and Ricardo, they managed to escape through the back door. However, they were unable to take any weapons on their way out. So now the Borg basically have the Lost Arena all to themselves. Girardi goes back to the body of the former Borg Queen. Not the Borg Queen anymore because the Borg Queen is now in Girardi's head. And she basically assumes the technology. She brings it over to herself. She gets this nice Borg bodysuit, which, kind of looks similar to the one we've seen before. My question was, going back to episode 1 and 2, is this the same Borg Queen costuming that we saw back then? Nope, wasn't. Unless she's also wearing some sort of overcoat on top of this. It isn't exactly the same, because as we see later in the episode, big changes are coming to the Borg. I know most of you are going to hate that. I hate them as well, but we'll get to those. All right. Now the crew, for the most part, back together. Elnor dead. Put a pin in that. And Girardi taken over by the Borg. But the rest of our original crew back together. Rios, Picard, Seven, Rafi, not Laris. Not Laris. Talon has been traded out for Guinan. I don't know why they keep switching back and forth. I know this isn't Guinan's fight, but you think, with the sake of the future of all mankind, if you get that reference, star, thumbs up, great for you. For the sake of the future of all mankind, Picard will have a small sprite. But why would Guinan not be helping them? I don't know. It seems like this is an all-hands-on-deck situation. The sake of everything, the future, the universe, the galaxy, whatever you want to say, is in the hands of fate right now, and they're trying to change that tide. And Guinan just, went back to run her bar in case Q from the Impractical Jokers brings her dog back? I don't know. It just seems like, why wouldn't everyone be working together? So they're back together, not for long. We're going to notice very shortly they're going to split up again because that seems to be the third theme of this season. Grief, trauma, and splitting up. Those are the three themes we've learned so far. So they're under attack by the Borg, and they take cover. Rios gets shot in the arm. Picard has a flashback to what basically the same thing we saw earlier in the season, except this takes place just before that happens. We're going to retread a lot of his flashback scenes, but we will get closure on that. Another thing I don't like, but we'll get to that later. So Jurati and the Borg Queen have now traded places. Jurati is the mind inside of the Borg Queen, inside of her own body, so she's not in charge, but she's having a chat with the Borg Queen. And what we come to find out is the Borg were never about perfection. They were never about evolution. They were never about, all the things we've been led to believe. The Borg are about loneliness. Because Jurati has been inside the Borg Queen's mind. All the millions of sentient species that she's assimilated, which seems like a high number to me. It's all been for one thing. The Queen was lonely, and she was trying to cure that loneliness through the only means she had, assimilation. Now, I will say these are not the same Borg from our timeline, because these are the Borg from the Confederation timeline. However, I do believe they would have still had the same origin in this timeline, so that kind of contradicts the Borg that we know. Maybe Jurati was making this up. I don't think so, based on what happens later. So then we cut back to this fella here, Elnor. You remember him? He's not undead. This is a unseen power of the ship, which does make sense for one reason. It's the emergency combat hologram, not the command hologram, the ECH. And this is the magic technology of it. It can make a hologram out of anyone who has ever been on board the ship. I have no problem with that. If someone was on the ship, okay, the ship was able to get a scan of their physical appearance, create a hologram out of that. Don't have a problem with that. What I do have a problem with is this fella here seems to have all the memories and emotions and feelings of Elnor up to and including the moment of his death. How would that be possible? That doesn't make any sense to me. Also, why was this technology not used earlier in the show? They could have used a doctor, an emergency medical hologram. They could have used an emergency combat hologram for various things. They could have used more help earlier on the show. Now, if it was confined to the ship, fair enough. Most times holograms are. But we see in this very episode, Elnor has a mobile emitter. So why not create 50 emergency combat holograms to go out and help them? Or, tactical officers or something. Just seems like a little late in the game to be throwing this magic technology at us that we could have used the entire time to help the series along. Oh god, I just had a thought. Are they going to do emergency TNG cast holograms next season, and that's how we get the original cast back? Gee willikers, I hope not. So now we go back to Picard's flashback. This is pretty much what happened in the household before what we saw in his dreamscape, before his mom goes bonkers and decides to go play hide and seek in the basement or the World War II tunnels. And something we see that I do like, I believe this is the NX-01 Enterprise refit. The version of the ship we were supposed to see in Season 5 of Enterprise, had that actually happened. I would love for them to do something along those lines in the future, but based on the storytelling we're seeing in current Star Trek series, I don't know if I want that. Strange New Worlds, I'm holding out hope. Picard, I'm holding out hope for the way they wrap things up in Season 3. But as it stands, I think this season has been more misses than hits, and it's just way too drawn out. So that's that. We're going to get back to more flashbacks later. So as I said, Rios was shot in the arm, so Picard's basically telling Talon, you need to get him out of here. You need to transport him away. He's a liability. Get him, Teresa, Ricardo, out of here, and don't let him come back. So they transport him out, and they lock the transporter so he can't come back because he was shot in the arm. I understand that. Then Picard says he's a liability. He'll only get himself killed if he tries to help. Granted, he's injured, but Picard is a 96-year-old man. What is he going to do about a bunch of commando Borg that are shooting at them with Borg-enhanced technology, projectile guns, whatever? I feel like Picard is the most liability of anyone here, even if Rios does have a bullet wound in his arm. But as I said, they need to keep splitting up because that's a theme of the episode, the theme of the series, and that's not the first and last time they're going to split up this episode because not long after this, Rafi and Seven basically say, we need to split up and have a two-pronged attack. So they go off. Picard and Laris go off their separate ways. So now everyone's not back together. Has anyone spent 2 minutes together this season? Maybe at the party, which made no sense. Then here is Rios. Oh man, Rafi and Seven. There's too many R names. Rafi and 7 of 9, Annika Hansen, are here after they've split up, basically saying they don't think they're going to survive. And now they have a nice chat. They mention Voyager. They mention Janeway here. And what they say makes very little sense to me. But 7 tried to join Starfleet. She says after Voyager returned, she tried to join Starfleet, but they would not let her join Starfleet because she was a Borg. Boy, I wish we had ever seen a Borg in Starfleet before. Maybe a precedent had been set. Maybe a Borg who was also on Voyager who joined Starfleet upon returning. Too bad that never happened. Anyways, then Soong comes out. Soong is the on-the-ground commander of these Borg troops. What? Soong is a geneticist in his 70s. Why would he be leading paramilitary Borg troops to take out, well, I was going to say to take out some, really good people, but it's a 96-year-old man, Rafi, 7 of 9, Rios, a kid, and Teresa, a doctor. So I guess they're really not that dangerous, but still, what is he going to do here? I mean, he's a geneticist, he's a scientist, he's in his 70s. Why? Why is he in charge of these people on the field? I don't understand. And I don't believe he's assimilated because he does still have his own mental capacities, his own language. So I don't really know what's going on with Picard and Soong, but he does banter with Picard. Basically, they're both fighting for their own future. He's fighting for the future where, he can be this grand hero to humanity. Picard's fighting for the Federation future that we know and love from Star Trek, or hopefully some version of that where the Confederation doesn't exist. Then Rafi and 7 are in Chateau Picard. Some Borg come in. And this part's where, again, I'm not sure what's going on with these people. Are they Borg drones? Are they soldiers with enhanced abilities? Because they're fighting like normal human soldiers, hand-to-hand combat with knives. They seem to be extra strong because once Rafi and 7 knock them down, they both have to use all of their power to stab the guy together. It's a nice double stab from this couple that has no chemistry, but apparently are going to get back together at some point. I don't know. So Elnor is on the ship trying to fight and fight and fight. He's stealing weapons. He gets a bunch of guns. And then he's like, you know what, though? That Elnor guy that I'm based on and have all the memories and personality and emotions from, he was big into swords. So I'm going to use the sword. Why use guns when I can use this sword? Cool, great, take the sword. Also take the guns. I mean, come on, son. Then, nice scene with Teresa and Rios. She fixes him up, uses the tricorder, and basically she's like, do you have any idea what this means to me? I'm a 21st century doctor, and you've got a freaking ER in your pocket. And then he's like, pretty cool, yeah. Anyways, take this bullet out of my arm so I can go help my friends. And she's like, I don't want you to leave. I want you to stay with me. We could be a family. Maybe your whole reason for coming back here, your future was always meant to be back here with me and my kid. Maybe we're meant to be a family and that's why you came here. Are they setting the seeds for the fact that he's going to do that? Are they going to come to the future? I don't know. It seems like they're trying to set something up, and if they just kind of don't do anything with that, then I'm going to feel like this was more wasted time in a season that's already padded. Picard happens to find a gun. This would be from, let's say, 1945 at the very latest, because these tunnels were last used by the French resistance until the Nazis came. So let's say it's from 1945. 80 some odd years later. Still loaded, picks it up, manages to shoot a couple of the Borg drones, and I don't know what you say, to keep them at bay, I guess. And then he's in these tunnels for the first. He says he was only ever in these tunnels once when he was a kid. That seems a little odd. He never went back to those tunnels ever in his life, even though he went back to live here. Nobody. I don't know. It seems a little shaky that it's his house, and he's never been back there. Maybe because of the bad memories, but still, I don't know. That seems a little odd. Then Rios. Again, these are names. I'm telling you, I can't get them straight. Elnor and Rafi meet and immediately says, "Oh, I'm not Elnor. I do have his memories and his feelings and his emotions and everything that makes him except a physical body." So they have a nice, quiet chat where she apologizes for the manipulation we saw earlier, and he says, "Well, I do, as I mentioned, have all the memories and emotions of the Elnor you know, so I can tell you this right now. He doesn't blame you. He loved you up to the moment that he died." So now she's kind of feeling better about herself, I guess. Then they kind of fight and they fight and they fight. The Borg Queen, they happen to get all of the other Borg off the ship minus the Queen. They get the transporters working again. They beam them all away, except the Borg Queen has got a transport inhibitor. Gee willikers, it would have been useful if she gave the rest of them transport inhibitors. But it is what it is. The Borg Queen left on the ship by herself. They happen to transport the rest of the Borg into the walls of the tunnels of Chateau Picard. So, I'm assuming they're staying there forever. I mean, they're now basically made of stone, so in any possible futures, there's now some Borg drone people in the walls. I sure hope these people weren't integral to the future of humanity, because we're doing a lot to screw up the timeline. And then the Borg Queen basically says, "You don't have me cornered like you think you do, because I got these sweet tentacles." She shoots one out her back, destroys the immobile emitter, so Elnor goes bye-bye. She knocks Rafi into the wall, and then she just straight up impales Seven right through the stomach. I don't know why she was non-lethal to Rafi, but she just penetrated 7 of 9 that way. It is what it is. It leads to something that happens later. Not a big fan either way. I'm not, I guess they're just trying to make the stakes worse, and they needed to get 7 of 9 back to being 7 of 9. I don't know. Why is she picking and choosing who she's being violent to? Then we go back to the Agnes, Jurati, and the Borg Queen mental conversation where Jurati still is exerting some control over the Borg Queen's body. Well, I guess it is her body, but the Borg Queen's been in control. And she proceeds to tell the Borg Queen, "You guys kind of suck. The Borg always lose. In every timeline, in every reality, always, 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 the Borg lose. You were never a winner. You are constantly living in the shadow of being the worst and always losing. That's why the Borg are the way they are." All right. And then she tells that the Borg Queen, basically, "I was able to take over because of the same emotions that you used earlier. The chemicals you just created by trying to hurt my friends have unleashed whatever endorphins or whatever into her body. So now I and you are becoming one. What we need to do is we need to build Borg better. We have this big plan where, you know what we do? We have a second chance collective. Because you're lonely, there's lots of other lonely people in the universe. How about the Borg become a positive meaning of change? Let's have a second chance collective where we go around and we don't take people by force. We take the lost. We take the lonely. We take the unwanted. We take the broken people. And we build ourselves a collective of love and second chances and positivity. That's what the Borg are going to be from now on. We're going to merge into this one being, this beautiful Borg Queen with my emotional flaws and all my murderous rampage techniques. You with all your problems you've had through however long this Borg Queen has been alive. And we're going to go become this great Borg collective of love. What? What? So now we've got happy Borg that are going to go just make everyone's lives better. Okay, maybe that's the Borg Queen we saw in the beginning of the season. And I feel like that's going to change a lot of things if they stick with that, and that's going to kind of mess a lot of things up. Putting a pin in that because it is what it is. Then Rafi, oh my god, I told you, every single R name I'm getting wrong this time. Rios beams back to help his friends, leaving Teresa and Ricardo behind. Are they going to reunite later? I don't know, but they do share a kiss before he disappears. The price of fixing 7 of 9 to bring her back to life was the Borg Queen, now kind of possessed and controlled by Jurati, has to reestablish this 7 of 9 back into her Borg implanted self. Why they had to give her back her exact same implants on her fingers, on her hand, on her eye, all of the recognizable things, I don't know. Why they couldn't have just fixed her stomach hole, which had nothing to do with a cranial implant. Whatever. This allows Annika Hansen to be back to the 7 we know and love. It's a contrived way to get there. I mean, they could have just done the normal, once they fix time, things go back to normal. I don't know if they're going to fix time. I have a feeling they're not going to fix time. But now we have Annika Hansen back as 7 of 9. And then we find out all along Picard's mother, how do I say this? Because I know YouTube doesn't like certain phrases. She ended herself through means of a rope around the rafters of their home. So, we find out 96 years of life. Picard was maybe, 8 when this happened? He did not remember this. He's been basically traumatized throughout his life about the way his mother ended. Then he proceeds to tell us, reconciling a problem that I've had for a while now, that he used to visualize his mother as an old woman drinking tea, asking him for a chat, because it was too painful to remember that his mother ended herself immediately after these traumatic memories he's had. And he basically grew up without a mother, had all these fantastical memories of her. He's 96 years old. 96 years old. So 85 years of life, he's been suppressing this memory. It's never come up before now. It's never come up many times. He was assimilated. He died. This is the first time it's coming up to try to actually be relevant to his life. I don't know. That's a bit of a stretch. It's kind of a big stretch. I don't like it. I was really hoping they weren't going to go this route, but they did. So now we have Miracle, Love Borg, who are going to go save the galaxy through companionship. And now we've got Picard, who's dealt with the trauma and the grief. He's now finally aware of why he's been the way he has his entire life. We've got Rafi, who finally got to deal with her stuff with Elnor. And we've got 7 of 9, who's finally kind of come to terms with her Borgness. All right, cool. One episode before the end of the season, and we've taken care of the trauma and the grief of several of our main characters, because that's one of the main plots. So we've got Picard wrapped up his grief, the Borg have wrapped up their grief and trauma, 7, Rafi. Who's next? You? Ore? Soong? Probably all 3 of them. I don't know what's going to go on with Soong, because we still have the problem of the fact that no matter what happens, he needs to procreate so that we have all those descendants that look exactly like him all the way up to Data. So, he can't die. Or can he? I don't know. They're going to change things anyways, so we'll have to see. So they've completely changed several parts of Star Trek canon, and finally our crew comes back together. I forgot to tell you, they let the Borg Queen Jurati fly off with the La Serena, because that was kind of the bargain. Save 7's life, you can have our ship. I'm sorry, what? What? So now we're trapped in the past. The Borg have flown off 400 years in the past with 25th century technology. Great, there's supposed to be a force for change now. That's not going to screw up the timeline at all. So what purpose did they have to save Rene Picard now that the freaking Borg are 400 years in the past? Even if they're a force for good, which they're saying they are, that's not going to change the timeline. What's going on here? So we've got this shot of our team back together now, and they're like, well, everything's going as planned. Now we need to go save Rene Picard, because the last thing the Borg Queen told us is, to succeed, there must be two Renes. One who lives, and another who dies. So what are they trying to tell us? I have two ideas. That there's a split timeline, so they need to have both branching timelines coexist, or they're talking about two different Rene Picards. The Rene Picard from this season, the explorer with the bipolar personality disorder, and Rene Picard, the child of Picard's brother, who died in a fire in Generations, which kind of changed Picard for the worse or for the better. I don't know, it changed Picard in that movie and kind of sent him on a new path. Is that what they're saying? So Rene Picard, the child, needs to die in that fire, but Rene Picard, the explorer, needs to succeed in her mission? Maybe. Or maybe they're just saying they need to have two different Rene Picards. Heck, for all I know, they're going to take this Rene Picard with them and replace her with a emergency Rene hologram with a mobile emitter that we saw with this magic technology. Although that would require them to have the ship, which just went off with the Borg, so I don't know. She warps off, and that's the end of the episode. I don't even know what to say at this point. They've changed Star Trek so much. They've changed the Borg. They've changed the past of several of our characters. And then they've purposely told us that this is being able to be reconciled with things we've learned in the past. I don't know. I'm still choosing to believe this entire show takes place in an alternate timeline. So this was never even the Jean-Luc Picard from TNG. This was a Jean-Luc Picard from one of those other ships we saw in the episode Parallels, and as such, nothing that happens here actually matters. It's adjacent to what we know. Things took place almost in the same manner as the Star Trek we grew up with, but it's not. I don't think there's any way it can be. And, they can tell the stories they want to tell as much as they want, because to me, it's not impacting TNG, it's not impacting the original series, it's not impacting Voyager, DS9, anything like that, because it's not directly referencing back to that point in time. That's the only way I can still try to enjoy this stuff. And like I said, there's been some good things in this season, and now it seems like they're purposely trying to change things. For the worse, I don't know. Why they're trying to change this, I don't know. Maybe they just don't like the way things existed before. I've been talking way too long. There's a lot more I could say, but I'm just rambling now. So until next time, computer and program.